Hello there, and welcome to Landscape Stories. Today, we embark on a journey to one of the most beautiful mountains in the world, the Alps. The Alps were born from a monumental clash between the African and European plates, squeezing out the ancient Tethys Sea and reshaping the landscape in an epic geological saga. So, get ready to dive deep into the wild, untold story behind the Alps and what they are not telling you. So, stay with us and let's begin. Well, folks, the history of Alps formation began many millions of years ago. Imagine two giant slabs of Earth's outer shell, or tectonic plates, namely the African plate and the European plate, slowly moving towards each other. This isn't a gentle bump, but a massive, millions of years long crash. As these two plates collided, it wasn't just a simple crash scene, it was a process that formed the Alps, the huge mountain range you see today, stretching from Italy and France all the way to Vienna, Austria. And now you could say, okay, Renato, I understand, but what does this have to do with oceanic areas? Well, think of the ancient Tethys Sea, a vast body of water that once existed between these continents. As the African plate pushed against the European plate, this sea slowly disappeared. The bottom of the sea, filled with layers of sediment, bits of rocks, sands, and other materials, got squished and squeezed under immense pressure. This didn't happen overnight, but over a long period of time, mainly during the Oligocene and Miocene, time so long ago we are talking about millions of years. Alright, so it's time to break it down. Around 300 millions of years ago, during a time called the Carboniferous period, there was this massive event called the Eocene or Variscan orogeny. This was basically a fancy way of saying a bunch of smaller land masses crashed together to form a supercontinent called Pangaea, which was made up of two big parts, the Gondwana and Laurasia. Near where the Alps are today, there was an ocean called the Paleotethys. Now, imagine these huge mountains that formed because of all this crashing together. Over time, wind and water got to work on these mountains, wearing them down through chemical and mechanical erosion. This means the mountains were broken into tiny pieces like sand and rocks, which eventually turned into sandstone and conglomerate rocks during the Permian period. This is the stuff you see in Europe from that time. Because these old mountains were so huge, they weren't exactly stable and started to collapse under their own weight, a process called orogenic collapse. This caused the Earth's crust to stretch and form basins along where the mountains used to be, and there was also some volcanic activity with lighter lava, what we geologists call felsic, coming to the surface. This stretching and collapsing were the beginning of Europe and Africa starting to move away from each other. Now, crazy stuff's happening here. During the Jurassic period, around 180 millions of years ago, the supercontinent Pangaea began splitting into northern and southern parts, creating a narrow ocean called the Piedmont-Liguria Ocean, a piece of what we call the Tethys Ocean. A chunk of land, the Adriatic plate, floated between Africa and Europe, playing a key role in shaping the early Alps and surrounding seas. By the end of the Jurassic period, as the Adriatic plate moved towards Europe, oceanic trenches appeared in the eastern Alps, filling with deep marine sediments. This period marked significant geological changes, including the initial formation of the Alps amidst the backdrop of continents drifting and ocean forming. In the Cretaceous period, about 100 millions of years ago, Africa started moving northeast towards Europe due to the formation of the Atlantic Ocean. This caused the ocean floor between them, the Alpine Tethys Ocean, to get squeezed and pushed upwards as the continent moved closer together again. This squeezing action folded the ocean sediments, creating long chains of volcanic islands and setting the stage for the Alps formation. Buckle up, because we are diving into the epic crash that gave birth to the mighty Alps. The first big collision between the Adriatic plate, which means part of what's now Italy and nearby areas, and Europe happened in the late Cretaceous. This event, known as the Eoalpine phase, marked the beginning of the Alps. The collision transformed the region, creating the Austro-Alpine nappes and the Southern Alps. This was a pivotal moment in geological history that led to the creation of the Alps as we know them today. And during the Paleocene, the subduction of the Piedmont-Liguria oceanic crust beneath the Adriatic plate marked a significant geological event, as these land masses were forced deep into the Earth crust, reaching about 70 kilometers, almost 45 miles, below the surface. They underwent high-pressure transformations and become part of what we know as the Penninic nappes. On the surface, the dramatic collision between the Adriatic and European plates began, thrusting the upper crust of the Adriatic plate over the European crust, marking a pivotal phase in the Alps formation. After a while, the subducted or pulled under Earth crust said, "Alright, I'm out," and then it broke off and sank deeper, which caused the crust to bounce back up. This uplift is part of why we have the Alps rising up today. Because the Adriatic plate was still crashing in from the south, the only way for the Alps to stretch was east to west, creating this massive thrust zone. It's like the Earth was stretching and cracking its back, forming mountains and valleys. In the Quaternary period, the tectonic activity in the western and central Alps has largely stabilized, with ongoing uplift at rates of up to 2.5 millimeters per year in some areas. This current uplift is attributed to several factors, including the rebound from melting ice caps post-ice age, erosion during glaciation periods, and deep lithospheric and mantle process. So folks, the formation and evolution of the Alps is a monumental saga that spans hundreds of millions of years, marked by the collision and subduction of tectonic plates, the folding and uplifting of the Earth crust, and the dramatic interplay between geological forces. So thanks for joining us on this helping adventure. If you're fascinated by how our planet is shaped by forces unseen, check our previous video right here. And give us a thumbs up, share this video, and don't forget to subscribe to Landscape Stories. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and stay curious.